how are you okay? How do you come at it like mentally, knowing that you're preparing for a competition and you get injured in training or whatever, right? And not and how do you handle all that? Because I know it can be frustrating because you're like, man, I got Polaris coming up, I got a competition coming up. Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, it sucks, man. I mean, I would say the first thing that's going through my head is how bad is it and can I still compete with it? And I think everyone's threshold for that is different. You know, I've competed with broken ankles, broken toes.
Wow.
Um, I've competed with a torn pec, um, like not a full tear, obviously, but like a partial tear and stuff like that. So I think like you can work around certain injuries to a certain degree, and you just have to be smart about how you do it. Um, but you know, sometimes it's completely out of your control, and you just can't do anything, and you're off the mats, and that's fucking it. And I think um, I think you just have to understand that everyone who's been at a high level has had those experiences. Like Gordon Ryan, um, before 2019 ADCC, I think he either tore his ACL or something, and he had surgery on his knee, and he only got back to rolling about 12 weeks, maybe 8 weeks before he went and won ADCC. So I think you shouldn't always just count yourself out. And I think you should, the main thing you should do is keep your mind occupied with jujitsu. So come into the gym as much as you can, study tape as much as you can. And what generally happens after you have an injury and you come back is you're so excited to do jujitsu again that you have this massive growth spurt in ability because you've learned all this stuff and you want to try it out. And then you get back to jujitsu and you start figuring things out again. And some of the times where I've gotten way better than I would have done if I hadn't got injured was when I had that take time off the mat. So you know, it comes with its pros and cons, but I just think the main thing to remember is because you know you always feel like as an athlete you have a certain amount of years to make it, and and when you get injured, you're like, shit, this is 6 months out. And now all my opponents that are training are going to get better. And I'm going to come back and they're going to fuck me up. But you know, they might get injured, and everyone who does jujitsu gets injured. That's the one thing about start like that I get people to start jujitsu. I got my dad to start jujitsu, for example, which is great. But he's like 50 something, and he's been doing jujitsu for about 8 months, and he's had two surgeries.
Oh
So
wow.
sometimes you have to deal with the guilt of basically breaking your friends' bodies apart by telling them to do jujitsu. Um, but you know, it's just part of it's part of the gig basically. So you've just got to be prepared for it, and then you've just got to go, okay, well, I'm not going to waste this time. You know, like an athlete would do in an off season, do everything you possibly can to make sure when you get back on the mats again, you're ready to go. You know.
Yeah, when you go drop in at these other academies, are you doing it when you're injured too, or are you kind of using that? Are you trying to save going to these other academies for these like harder, more skilled rounds? Are you trying to save that for when your body's a little bit more, uh, I guess, ready or primed or recovered from it?
Yeah. When I go to other gyms, unless it's a gym I've been to like a lot and I know the people well, I wouldn't go to another gym if I was injured. You know. It's just too risky because it's just the nature of sometimes you're rolling with people who you might potentially compete against at some point as well. And I just think it's too risky to go into a feral gym. you know, because we're all competitive, and as much as we're all friends, and I am friends with a lot of people that I compete against, you don't want to fucking lose to someone from another gym, and and yeah, so I would advise not doing that unless you're like really good friends with them. Yeah, that's what I would say.
That brings up a good point too, because I talked to there's a guy here in the United States down in Arizona called Matthew Gillette, and he's got like this year or last year he had like 100 and something gold medals in IBJJF, like
Wow,
at black
what
belt
in 1 year?
in 1 year at black belt, right?
You had
And
100 medals.
yeah,
Fucking hell,
crazy. This
crazy.
guy is incredible competitor, and
Wow.
or maybe it wasn't. It was up there. Maybe not 100, maybe less than 100, but it was quite a few. And I talked to him about, when you're competing and like say like you just mentioned, you go to other academies that you might compete against these people. How should you roll there when you're rolling with these people that you have the possibility of competing against? Are you bringing the
Yeah.
A game, or are you kind of like playing, letting them build confidence. Like, oh, I beat Ollie in rounds at the gym, so I'm not worried about competing against him now.
Nah, mate, it's war. Just war every single time. Fuck it. They're not getting shit on me. There's no way I'm letting someone from another gym get anything on me. No, I mean like, no, in all seriousness, I'm respectful to people, and I'm always cool. I'm not going to wrench on a submission or anything like that. And to be honest, it's kind of like a feeling out process. If I'm rolling with someone and they feel like they want to go a bit lighter, I'll go lighter with them, you know. Um, but yes, I've definitely gone to other gyms and just tried to smash everyone many times, and I think it's really beneficial for you, and I think it's beneficial for them as well. And when people come in from, I love when people come in to the gym from other places and try and sort of challenge me and stuff. I think it's fun, and I think it's important for your students to see, and I think it prepares you for competition, and I think it prepares you for life. I just think it's a cool thing to be able to do, to just like competing against other tribes and other places. It's just I think it's part of the nature of what drives us to do jiu-jitsu. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it, you know.
Do you ever have a battle but in yourself from wanting to be like a great coach and also for being a great competitor? Because I know those two things can take a lot of your time, and trying to balance between the two has got to be hard.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to sort of a time management thing, because I coach a few times a week, but it's not the teach coaching in a class. It's an allotted space of time, and you just work for that time and then you train. So that doesn't really take much away from your training. But if you have students who are invested in you and think you're a really good coach and want to learn stuff from you, and want you to review their uh, they want you to review their competition footage, or even privates, can take up a lot of time and energy. And for me, I try and invest my time in students right now because I have limited amount of time. I try and only really invest myself in students who are serious about jiu-jitsu, or at least just care about getting better. If I see someone that really wants to be good at jiu-jitsu and is really trying their best and taking what I'm teaching them, or what they're learning off an instructional, and putting it into practice, I want to help them. But you have limited amount of time, and I think people around me understand that. You have to be selfish as an athlete, and not just in the gym. Somewhat in your personal life, you have to say no to things. You have to say no to people when you don't want to be able to be as focused as you possibly can on this goal, because there's a shitload of people who are trying to do the same thing as you. It's extremely competitive, and even if you're really good, you still might not make it. So you better be as possible good as you possibly can be. So I think generally people around me understand that I have limited time, but when once my competitive career is sort of over to a certain degree, I'd love to be more hands-on in the coaching aspect and help people even more. And I think I'll be more able to do it as well. So I think it's just right now investing in myself as a product, and then later on I'll be able to help other people.